Hello there, everybody, and welcome to the entertainment headquarters. And it's review time. And it's been a hell of a month. We've just come out of October, the Halloween season, and we did a month-long theme, which was Taste the Blood, the month of the vampire, talking about all things vampire within the film genre. But now I'm getting back into normal reviews and going back to doing my normal, regular segments that I love to do, retro classic movie show, horror franchise discussions, back on the kaiju connections with some upcoming reviews on that, and of course getting back to reviewing things that I've seen but didn't have a chance to go out there and put out there a review on. But here we are. Now, the first review that I'm going to do, getting back into things, is yet again another horror film. And it is part of a continuously growing franchise in popularity. Of course, I'm talking about Terrifier. Now, Terrifier, as you know, is a franchise that seems to keep on growing. It started off as an independent horror movie, and it created such a pulsating character in that of Art the Clown. He's so captivating, he's so kind of charismatic, he can be scary, he can be funny, he can be all the things that you really enjoy about a horror icon, an upcoming horror icon, which by third film in, he probably is heading in that direction if he's not already considered a horror icon. But Damien Leone is the creator of the Terrifier franchise. He started way back with All Hallows Eve, I think it was called, which was a mixture of short stories which featured Art the Clown, and he was the one that stood out and became the most popular of all of the characters that he created in that. And then he span it out by doing, I think, a second small short story film which featured more of Art the Clown, and then eventually he went all out and created the Terrifier film series based on Art the Clown. Now, David Howard Thornton is the man behind the mask of Art the Clown. He's a fantastic actor. He really puts his all into making Art the Clown as terrifying as possibly can be. He brings out so much to the character, and the most amazing thing about it is that he doesn't even speak. He's mute throughout all his performances, because Art the Clown, obviously, he's like a mime. He's like a mime clown, so he doesn't speak. It's all through his actions. That is what he brings to the screen. Now, a little bit of a recap. When it comes to the first Terrifier, the story is quite simple. It's about two girls on Halloween night who end up in an abandoned building, and they're getting terrorized by Art the Clown. The older sister of one of the girls, Victoria, comes looking for her sister, and gets trapped as well in this abandoned building, and there's just terror, there's blood, there's guts, there's all sorts goes on. Second film, Victoria survived, but she has been mutilated. Her face is mutilated due to the events of the first film. Art the Clown, who you thought was killed, comes back to life, which is like the supernatural element. You now realize he's not just a madman running about killing people. He has some sort of supernatural, ability. He's a demon of some sort. He comes back, and he's then with the pale girl, I believe the character's name is, who is a demon as well, who resurrects him. And he basically follows her around the town when they meet up with this brother and sister duo called Jonathan and Sienna. Sienna and Jonathan then take on Art the Clown and, manage to survive that night. And now we are on to Terrifier 3. So Terrifier 2 was based in an abandoned amusement park, which I loved the setting. And, I thought the film was great as well, but I do think it overstayed its welcome and just dragged on a bit and just wanted to just hurry in the go. Where I think if they had shortened it by half an hour, I probably would have liked it a bit more. And now we are on to Terrifier 3. Now, Terrifier 3, the story is a continuation from the second one, where Sienna has survived, the night with Art the Clown. He, you think is gone, he's dead. And Sienna was, sent to, a psychiatric treatment facility because obviously the events of the first one totally, scarred off her life, basically. Jonathan, the younger brother, he's moving on with his life. He's at college. And this film is set 5 years later after the events of the second one. What happens next? You go back to the psychiatric facility that Victoria, the survivor of the first film, who was mutilated, who was basically went criminally insane, is in this insane asylum where things happen where she and Art the Clown are reunited. She is now possessed by the spirit or the demon, the pale girl from the second movie. She's now possessed by her, and her and Art the Clown now break out of this facility and go on the rampage. But this time it's not on Halloween night, it's now set at Christmas time. So this is a continuation of the, of course, Terrifier series, but it's not based like the first two over Halloween. It's now set at Christmas time. Now, with these films, because the first one was low budget, and why it became such like a cult classic is because of the gore. It's because of the gore, because of the violence, because of the lengths of, Damien Leone, the creator, went when it came to creating amazing gory scenes with the violence. These films, for me, the films might be titled Terrifier, but they should have just been titled Gore, 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 because that's all that these films are about, really. For me, they're not like films that have these integral, smart plots with characters that, are like the Conjuring series, where they generally can be terrifying in terms they do deliver scares. For me, these don't scare me. They just make us feel uncomfortable. That's the key with these movies. They're not there to really terrify in terms of frighten you or scare you, because I've never felt scared with these movies. I always just feel basically uncomfortable and, feel a bit yucky because of the violence that's being portrayed on the screen. The plot, like I say, is very simple. Victoria and Art the Clown are going out there causing chaos, and Art and Victoria are going after Sienna again. And obviously, like I said, there was a supernatural element to the second movie where Art the Clown and this pale girl demon. But the other supernatural element is that there's a link between Sienna's father and the demon or the events that are occurring, because in the second movie, he disappeared or took his own life, and he left Sienna a gift, which was a sword. Now, this sword had the ability to kill and maim and resurrect Sienna in the second movie after you thought she had lost her life and dragged into hell. So that played a part in the second movie. And now I think because she survived and was resurrected and killed killed Art the Clown, and he came back again, he and Victoria have like a vendetta and a grudge against these two individuals, Sienna and Jonathan. And then you meet other family members. There's a Santa scene where the Santa gets killed by liquid nitrogen with Art the Clown. There's a mall scene, which, you know, explosions, bodies, blood, all that stuff. There's a shower death scene. There's lots of gory, brutal scenes. But for me, that's all these films are there. They're there for shock value. They're there for to deliver simply gore and, you know, horrendous blood and gut scenes that don't actually scare you. And I think that's the point of these movies. They're there for shock value more than scares and terrifying you. The stories, you know, when I seen the first one, I thought if that had just been a one and done, I think I would have been okay with it. But the fact that they've kind of slowly started to build this into a franchise and kind of started building an ongoing story, and the fact that they've kept the protagonist is Sienna, I am starting to like that it is building a story between characters. Or the Clown's like some sort of, I don't know, some sort of accolade of hell that's on Earth causing mayhem, and he's following, you know, the path of the pale girl who was then in Victoria. And so there is a connection there, and there's a connection with Sienna and this sword, and, you know, being, I guess, like an acolyte of, you know, Earth or heaven to take on the evil. I do like that they're building that up, and the most positive thing I will say about Terrifier 3 is I love the development of Sienna and the protagonist that she is becoming. She is a very strong female character. She's not woke. She's not has all these female things hiding there to go, oh, we need to make her like this, we need to make her like that. No, they've actually built her up to be a very believable, strong female lead character. You know, we've talked about in Hollywood, you know, you had your Ellen Ripley's, your Sarah Connors, and then later on in Hollywood, all the protagonists are just seem to be, you know, you hide in there for the sake of just being there without giving them a personality, without giving them, you know, real purpose in the films, or giving them something that you actually feel connected to. It's kind of just forced in your face for them to be there or to be a certain way. Where this with Sienna is generally organic with her. You generally feel for this girl. You generally warm to her, and you're generally connected to her, and you generally want to see her win and see her journey throughout the process of the second and now the third film. As when it comes to Art the Clown, as always, I honestly thought this is nothing new to what we've seen before in the last two films. He's basically there just to create chaos and mayhem. Obviously, he is a mime. He doesn't really have any purpose apart from killing and maiming and creating horrendous, you know, chaos and death wherever he goes. But with David Howard Thornton, who plays him, he brings like this kind of witty personality to him. He can be terrifying, he can be scary, and then he can be funny. And he can just turn the charm on like that without saying a word. As for the other characters in the film, Victoria does play another part in this movie. She, for me, is like the real ringleader behind it all in this movie, even though she doesn't have as much screen time. Jonathan, his story just continues from the previous one, where he's trying to move on with his life. And as for the kills in this, are, as always, gory, gory, gory. I thought the second movie had more brutal kills in it. I thought the second one was too brutal, if I'm honest. The second one just took the brutality and the gore to a level where, you know, once you'd seen it once you'd seen it twice, the shock value for me kind of disappeared, and it was like, right, I've seen enough gore. There's nothing more but gore now. With this film, because it is a continuation of the second one more than the first one, there is more of a story, and they do work more with the characters. Of course, with Sienna, they've tried to build and focus on her as the protagonist more and really make you believe in what she's going through, what she's feeling. And that's great. There is some negatives in terms of the kills, and that is, I think when it comes to horror movies or any movie in general, when it comes to children, I think you have to be very careful with what you display on screen or how you subject a child's death on screen. Like, for example, if you look at a film, for example, say like Face Off, where you have the death of John Travolta's character's child, at the beginning of the film, and then you have the character of Nicolas Cage. That was something done in a way where it was tragic, but it wasn't too upsetting or too gory or too in your face. It didn't make you feel completely, off or completely just grossed out. It was done in a way where you could sympathize with the characters and you could sympathize with what was going on, and it was going to be like the foretelling of what would happen later on in the movie. When it comes to the Terrifier movies, they just don't care about the kills when it comes to kids. Like, I think they just do it for the shock value. I think they do it for the fact that they can do it on screen. And I think, yes, if they had, they've done it to show basically how evil Art the Clown is, that whether you're a man, woman, or child, no one's off limits. But I do think you have to be very careful with stuff like this, especially in the world that, whether it's real life, whether it's fake. I think the way that you tell a story with a child's death, you have to be very careful with it. But within the horror genre, the way that the events transpire within the Terrifier films with the brutalities of the deaths, I think sometimes it's unnecessary, and especially with the kids. I think kids' deaths should be off limits sometimes, depending on the story you're telling and, the way it's brought forward on screen. Like, for example, he has another death, which I felt very sympathetic for, in the Quiet Place, the very first movie, where one of the youngest of the children of the family is killed by one of the aliens right at the beginning of the movie. You don't see the kill, but you know what's about to happen. You feel the emotions, you feel the tenseness, you feel the fear, and you feel the horror without seeing it. Where with the Terrifier movies, they just take it to another level where I just don't think it needs to go. I think, you don't see the kills of the children in the beginning. You just share the noises and it's just not necessary. It's just over the top for me. And there'll be a lot of people who will be like, well, boo-hoo, it's a horror film. Boo-hoo, it's not real, it's fiction. You knew what you were getting into when you were going in to see Terrifier 3. That's a load of bullshit. I'm sorry. That's a load of shit. If you've got, people with that mentality, then God help you. God help the world, in my opinion. But I do think there were certain things that weren't needed in the film. But going back to the positives of the movie, between 1, 2, and 3, out of the 3 movies, I would say I preferred this one to the second one. I like the second one up to a point, but then for me, it was an half an hour too long. Once you've seen enough go, they should have ended it and got back to the main antagonist and her going against Art the Clown and ending it. Where they just seem to just do gory scene after gory scene. Where with this movie, the third movie, yes, it has its gore. It has some, like I said, with the kids, or some unnecessarily gore. But it does have a better plot. The plot isn't much more than the second one, but the plot is there better than the plot of the second one. The second one basically sets up the events of the third one because you're given an amazing protagonist. You're given an amazing heroine in Sienna. So they give you here in the second one, you've seen her story, you cared about her, you grew to want to see her win, and now this is a continuation of that. And there's definitely going to be a fourth one. The fourth one probably is going to be 100% all about Sienna going all against Art the Clown. It's definitely set up that way, where she's going to go balls to the wall to take Art the Clown down once and for all. And the only other thing I would like to think and say about the movies is that they introduced these supernatural elements. Like in the first one, you just thought he was a serial killer, and then he suddenly comes back to life. The second one, they introduced this element of this sacred sword that could kill people and resurrect people, and it's connected, I guess, to heaven and God, I'm assuming, because Art the Clown and the Pale Girl are connected to hell and demons. So I like that duality between heaven and hell. Art's representing hell with the Pale Girl, and Sienna, who in the second one had this angel warrior costume on with this sword that was, inherited to her by her father. She's like this angel representation. So I like that idea of heaven versus hell within the Terrifier movies. So I would like to see the conclusion of all that in the fourth movie. But in all, Terrifier 3 is much better than the third one. Sorry, better than the second one, in my opinion, in terms of story. As for the goal for me, just on the same level as the second one or the first one. The first one totally shocked you because it was the first one and you weren't expecting how gory that would be. But once you got past that in the first one, how far can you take the gore? They took it to the next level in the second one. This one tried to do the same kind of gore as the second one and the first one, but it also had more story that came with this film, not rather than just being all out gore, which is probably a plus. But if I had to rate this, the Terrify films are not scary to me. They're just there to make you feel uncomfortable, to make you feel disturbed, to make you feel yuck. But in terms of actually scaring us, they don't actually scare me. So they're not terrifying to me. They're just gore fest. They should have been called Gore, and more gore. But if I had to rate this, I'm going to rate them in order. The first one, because it was the first one and a cult classic, I'm going to give that a 9 out of 10. The second one, I'm going to give a 7 out of 10. And the third one, I'm going to give 8 out of 10. Because Terrifier 3 really was better than the second one, but it didn't shock us or frighten us or anything of that nature compared to the first one. The first one totally was like out there, and for me, I liked the first one because if it had been a standalone movie about just a serial killer, it would have been amazing. But the horse trying to build this world, and they're all trying to build a world for people to be connected to or that, but I don't know how much they can connect you to it because, like you say, I don't know. These films are mainly there just for shock value and gore. They're not there for anything other than that. And you've got to take them for that. But they have created an amazing protagonist in Sienna who I do think down the line will be remembered fondly and is one of the best protagonists in horror. I do think that will come. And of course, Art the Clown. You cannot not praise the work of, David Howard Thornton for what he's able to do with this character without saying a word on screen. He has charisma, he has personality, he can be scary, and then he can be witty and funny all at the same time. And as for Damien Leone, he, is created a character in a world that is slowly continuing to grow. I wish you would focus more on the lore building and more on telling the story, and then, not as heavy on some of the gore, especially the unnecessary gore when it comes to killing kids. But this is his world, this is his vision, and you've got to respect the work he's put into these films, because the practical effects, the gore effects are amazing. They really, really are. I will praise that. When it comes to the amount of fake blood and prosthetics and all of that stuff, practical effects, he's really putting the time and effort into making it look as convincing and as gory and as scary as possible. So I will give him that as well. But yes, that's just my quick thought on Terrifier 3. Is it something I could go back to? Maybe once in a while, years down the line, I might give these films another go throughout time. But it's not something that I would return to every year, because for me, I like a bit of substance to me horror films. I want to be scared and I want to be captivated. I want a plot that, pulls us in. I don't just want to be jump scared, and I don't just want, a load of blood thrown at us on the screen. It has to have a mixture of many different elements for me to make it a fantastic, scary movie. But that's just my take on Terrifier 3. What's your take on Terrifier 3? Let me know in the comments below. But until the next time, keep on loving all things entertainment, and I'll catch us all at the next one.